Can I resist the urge to put Dimension Scissor into another Gallantmon deck? Let's talk about it. What's up, Tamers? Welcome back to The Other Decks. My name's Casual Adobo, and today we're going to be talking about Gallantmon X Antibody. But before we do that, I gotta say, and I just found out right before I turned on this camera, we just hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel. This is absolutely wild. As someone who's pursued a lot of things in the realm of film, television, and social media, to be able to do this with the help of y'all is really something. So thank you. I think, I'm gonna do a better video and really celebrate it, but I wanted to share the news when I just found out, and honestly, I'm just filled with gratitude, so thank you so much. And hopefully I can continue to serve this little community of weird Digimon and One Piece fans that we've built here. So thank you again, really. God, how do I pivot from that? Alright, Digimon. Let's talk about Digimon. So by the time this video comes out, it'll be BT9 time, and last time we did talk about the top 3 meta decks you might expect to see at your tournaments for the meta. If you haven't checked that out, check it out over here. But admittingly, I did not include my own personal favorite deck. And if you haven't noticed already, I do have a little bit of favoritism towards Gallantmon. So the fact that Gallantmon X Antibody is in this set just fills me with joy. And it honestly builds off of a lot of the things that was introduced in EX02. Now, is it going to be the most meta deck? Probably not. Unfortunately, it is a little slow, especially compared to some of these OTK decks that are out there. And its effects do rely on deleting Digimon, which for most top tier meta decks, there's probably not going to be that many on the field. So that is something to kind of be concerned about. But it is powerful when it goes up against the right situation. And overall, just fun. If you're a Guilmon, Growlmon, Gallantmon fan, this is the deck for you. And the way I built this is sort of Guilmon tribal, which, I think there are maybe better ways or better inheritable effects that you can splash into here. But for the sake of theme, and I think this is powerful on its own as well, I decided to go with the Guilmon theme. If you want to see other sort of tribal decks, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, if you're enjoying the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Like I said, we've created sort of a little funky community of Digimon and One Piece fans here. I'm super happy about that. Those are both games that I'm really enjoying right now. And so I'd love to continue to, create more content for both of those things, and keep y'all happy. Keep the content machine going. But anyway, that's enough from me. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. Alright, and as we do with all of our Digimon deck profiles, we start off with the Digitama. We have one copy of Gurimon, so this has one attacking once per turn. If this Digimon has 6,000 DP or more, which when we're attacking, we honestly should be, draw one. But that's only our secondary Digi-Egg. Our main one is Digimon when attacking once per turn. If it has Guilmon, Growlmon, or Gallantmon in its name, draw one. So you notice that the theme of these Digi-Eggs is to give us some additional draw capabilities, additional card advantage in hand. And this time, I swear, you should be able to draw every single time. Because I am a man of my word, I did not splash green into this deck. And mostly because I don't think you need it. Some may argue you didn't need it to begin with, but I argue with them then. But no, these are solid Digi-Eggs, especially for what this deck is trying to do. Next, also side note, kind of hate that the X Antibodies are introduced first. From a storyteller's perspective, I would like to talk about the regular Guilmons, but I get it. It's how the sets are sort of broken up. Anyway, we do have 4 copies of Digimon X Antibody. So this one can Digivolve for 0 on top of Guilmon, and if you don't know, that black bar, black box indicates that it's like an alternate Digivolution cost, so you can do that in the raising area. However, the effects still do not trigger off of that, so you do not get its one Digivolving ability. However, if you have a Guilmon on the field and then you Digivolve into this one, when digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. Definitely prefer to put this on top of a Gallantmon just because that 4 to play is a little steep. And then in terms of inheritable, your turn, add 1000 to the maximum DP you can choose with DP based deletion effects. So if an option says like delete something 8000 DP or lower, this would bump it up to 9000. So you can delete anything 9000 DP or lower. And once again, you'll notice that as a trend throughout the Gallantmon, Gallantmon line. Moving on, we do have 4 copies of EX02 Gallantmon. So this is our on-play searcher. So reveal top 4, add a Gallantmon, and 1 Takato, and then add them to your hand. Place the remaining at the bottom of your deck in any order. This is just a really good searcher and allows us to get into our Takato, who is the main engine for how we want our Gallantmons to digivolve and attack. And then inheritable, once per turn, when attacking, if this Digimon has Gallantmon or Gallantmon in its name, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. So if your opponent is going pretty wide, this is a great counter to that. Next up, I do play 4 copies of the starter deck Gallantmon. So if your opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play, it can digivolve into Gallantmon for a memory cost of 4. So this is pretty good for warp digivolving. Obviously it's not proactive, right? It's reactive because your opponent needs a level 6 on the field, but it is pretty solid if you need to do a little bit of catching up. Then inheritable, your turn, once per turn. When an opponent's Digimon is deleted, draw 1. So once again, just giving us a little bit more draw power. Moving on to our champions, we do have 4 copies of Gallantmon X Antibody. So this digivolves from Gallantmon for 0, which is pretty cool. It can digivolve normally into a Gallantmon for 2. So honestly, not the worst. And then on your turn, add 1000 to the maximum DP you can choose for DP based deletion effects. So once again, this is Gallantmon X Antibody's inheritable. And then obviously if you stack them, the DP gain or the maximum DP you can choose increases each time. Next up, 4 copies of starter deck Gallantmon. This is the one that says when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, gain a memory. So 2 main themes we have here is increasing our maximum DP threshold for our deletion abilities, and then also when our opponent's Digimon are deleted, gain some things. In this case, gain 1 memory, which is actually pretty nice if you combine that with Takato and kind of plan your memory out a little further, right? Next up, we do have 4 copies of Gallantmon X Antibody. So it digivolves off of Gallantmon for 0. You understand the trend here. When digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn, 2 of their Digimon gain the ability on deletion, lose 1 memory. Then if Gallantmon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 6000 or less and delete them. So potentially, depending on how the board's set up, if your opponent is doing some sort of weird rookie rush, you can essentially digivolve into this for 1, which is kind of wild. And then remember, if you have Gallantmon X Antibody and Gallantmon X Antibody in the inheritables, that'll go up to 8000 DP or less. And then rounding out our ultimates, do have 4 copies of the starter deck Gallantmon. So when attacking, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, and then inheritable, your turn, once per turn. When an opponent's Digimon is deleted, this Digimon gains security attack +1. So while I said that we're not really focusing on OTK, it is pretty beneficial to give our Digimon some security attack +1, just in case we are playing from behind. Going into the megas, we do have 3 copies of Gallantmon X Antibody. So this digivolves from Gallantmon for 1. When digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. If no Digimon is deleted by this effect, unsuspend this Digimon. And our other Gallantmon that would serve as the base for this can delete some things with his own ability, so there's some pretty good potential that this might actually be able to unsuspend. Then on your turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, if Gallantmon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, trash the top of your opponent's security stack. So even if you just digivolve into X Antibody, either for 4 off of a level 5 or for 1 off of Gallantmon, if your opponent has a Digimon on the field, something will get deleted with one digivolving, and then you'll be able to trash a security card, which is pretty nice. Next up, we do have 4 copies of EX02 Gallantmon. So on your turn, this Digimon gets +2000, so it's a 4000 DP Mega. Does digivolve for 4, however, which is not as detrimental as you might think. Then if you have a red tamer in play, add 2000 to the maximum DP you can choose with DP based deletion effects, which then comes into play for its when attacking. Choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 6000 or less and delete them. So if you have your Tocado out in the field and you're attacking with this Gallantmon, you can choose an opponent's Digimon, any number of them, whose DP adds up to 8,000 or less. So pretty solid deletion abilities here for sure. And then next up, the true king of this deck, we do have 2 copies of Gallantmon Crimson Mode. So when Digivolving, delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, which is kind of wild. And then when attacking, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack, then add 1 to the number of cards trashed by this effect for every 10 cards in your opponent's trash. So even if your opponent does not have 10 cards in trash, you're at least guaranteed 1. If they have more than that, say you're playing a purple deck, right? You can trash 2 or more, depending on the situation. It is a pretty steep Digivolution cost, costing 6. However, with our Tocados, honestly, not that bad. Moving on to the options, we do have 2 copies of Atomic Megaloblaster. So 6 costs, which is a little expensive, but choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 10,000 or less and delete them. And then if we have the perfect stack of Gallantmon, this can potentially be, 14,000 or less Digimon? And honestly, that clears most level 6s, so for 6 costs, that's not bad. And security effect, activate this card's main effect. Next up, we do have 2 copies of Fireball, so delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3,000 DP or less. If your opponent's Digimon wasn't deleted by this effect, draw 2 cards. So 2 costs to get 2 cards, because you're not really going to try and delete anything with this. But that is very good memory efficiency, especially for a color that doesn't quite draw as much as some of the other ones. This is pretty solid. And then security effect, activate this card's main ability. Next up, do have 2 copies of Gaia Force. This is just delete one of your opponent's Digimon. Now at this point you kind of see the rest of the deck list, and you're probably wondering, hey, you forgot the ADP. Where's the ADP? To be honest, I did have 3 copies of it in here originally. I actually didn't have any Gaia Forces, but considering that we're not really trying to go for an OTK and our opponents most likely are, I'd rather have the sort of wide-ranging delete ability of Gaia Force than ADP. And because we're not really attacking that much, we're relying on our abilities to sort of melt our opponent's security, I didn't think it was that necessary. Because in an ideal world, we're not really attacking our opponent's security, we're attacking our opponent's Digimon. And then using those when attacking abilities to trash our opponent's security. And then thinking about it now, I think Atomic Megaloblaster works a lot better in a non-OTK format. So if you're not playing the grandest or whatever, things that go just slightly wider, I think this is a fantastic option. I would totally understand if you just want to cut these and then add some more Gaia Force or whatever sort of single target removal you want, just because we're back in the meta of single stacks coming off raising and then just wreaking havoc. Rounding out the options, we do have 2 copies of X Antibody. So if we have a Digimon in play, we can use this without meeting the color requirements, which is pretty cool. Security, gain a memory, then add it to the hand. So this is another way to possibly prevent any future attacks from coming. Typically, that's the Hammer Spark Ice Wall strategy. Red now has it too. And then main ability, place this card under one of your Digimon without X Antibody already in it into Digivolution cards, and then add it as the bottom Digivolution card. And then as an inheritable, all turns effects can't trash X Antibody in this card's Digivolution cards. And then when attacking, this Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon with X Antibody in its traits from your hand for its Digivolution cost. So say you start at 3 memory, you have a War Growlmon, you can Digivolve into Gallantmon for 4, Tocado would give you Blitz, you can attack, that when attacking for X Antibody would trigger, and then you can Digivolve into Gallantmon X Antibody for 1. But this is a nice way to sort of cheat out some of your X Antibodies, especially when you don't have Tocado early on, because this, in this Gallantmon deck, kind of gives it pseudo Blitz, right? So it's pretty solid. Moving on to our tamers, we do have 2 copies of Hero. This is a memory tamer, so if you have 2 or less, go to 3. And then when you attack with a Gammamon, which we don't have obviously, or something level 5 or higher, you can suspend this tamer to have one of your Digimon get plus 2,000 DP for the turn. And since we're not really looking to attack with anything that's level 4 or lower, right? We're almost always, if this is out in the field, going to try and activate this for the plus 2,000 power DP, sorry. One Piece terms, mixing it up. And then security ability, play this card without paying the memory cost. And then last but not least, we do have 3 copies of Tocado. Like I said, this kind of makes the whole entire deck run. So on your turn, if your opponent's Digimon is deleted, you can suspend its tamer to gain 1 memory. That's pretty nice. And then on your turn, when one of your Digimon would Digivolve into something with Gallantmon or Growlmon in its name, that Digimon gains, when Digivolving, Blitz for the turn. So that would allow us to Digivolve into our bigger creatures, go over memory, but still be able to attack and do some damage to our opponent. And then, like all other tamers, security, play without paying the memory cost. So that's that. That is my Gallantmon X Antibody deck profile. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And like I said before, there's probably a better way to do this, but I did want to go Guilmon Tribal, just because it's fun and thematic. And I'm looking forward to, Digivolving off of these base versions of these Digimon and going to X Antibody. Especially since that can happen in Raising. But yeah, let me know what you think, and if there's any other deck profiles, any decks you want to see for the BT9 format. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Once again, I'm really appreciative of everyone who has joined into videos, joined into comments, or just watched them and kind of lurked around, right, to use a streamer term. I really appreciate y'all. Once again, 1,000 subscribers is kind of wild. And I guess here's to the next 1,000, right? Anyway, I think that'll do it for me. So tamers, remember, build what you like, play what you love. And I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.